All right, so get this. Today, we're diving deep into Nosferatu.
Nosferatu.
And not just any Nosferatu.
Right.
We're talking about the brand new remake.
Yeah.
The one that's already creating a buzz.
Right?
And you've got some really great sources lined up for us.
Yeah.
You know, we've got Wikipedia entries on both the 1922 and the 2024 versions.
Yes.
We've got the IMDb page for the new one, plus a whole bunch of online reviews.
A very interesting choice for a remake, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
A silent film from 1922, that's quite a place to start.
Right. It's
Yeah.
not your typical, like Hollywood reboot.
No.
So our mission for this deep dive is to uncover what makes this story so captivating
Right.
that someone decided to resurrect it over a century later.
Yeah.
We'll explore the connections between the original and the remake.
Okay.
We'll get a feel for the plot and the themes.
Sure.
And we'll try to understand why this vampire tale continues to fascinate some people and leave others cold.
Well, I think we should start with the elephant in the room, right?
Yeah, what's that?
Why remake Nosferatu at all?
Right.
Why,
Sure.
especially when you've got Bram Stoker's Dracula sitting right there?
Exactly. Like, what makes the 1922 film so special that it warrants a modern reimagining?
Well, a couple of things.
Yeah.
First, Nosferatu is a landmark. It's a landmark of German expressionism,
Okay.
which was a style of filmmaking that used distorted sets, stark lighting, and exaggerated acting to create a very unsettling atmosphere.
Yeah, okay.
You know, think of those long, creepy shadows and the almost otherworldly look of Count Orlok.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a truly groundbreaking approach to a horror.
And it's not just the visuals, right?
No,
Didn't Nosferatu actually influence how we think about vampires today?
absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
While it was based on Dracula, it was actually an unauthorized adaptation.
Oh, wow.
And to avoid legal issues, they had to change the names and some of the details. Ironically, some of those changes, like sunlight being fatal to vampires,
Yeah.
ended up becoming staples of vampire lore,
Yeah.
even more so than the original Dracula novel.
Wow, talk about an accidental legacy.
Yeah.
And then there's Max Schreck's performance as Count Orlok.
Oh, yes.
You know, I've heard rumors that people on set genuinely thought he might be a real vampire.
Shrek's performance was so unnerving.
Yeah.
So genuinely creepy.
Yeah.
It's easy to see why those rumors got started.
Yeah.
He fully embodied this ancient predatory evil.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things that makes the original Nosferatu so chilling.
It's like the film itself is cursed. I mean, even off screen, lawsuits and attempts to destroy all the copies.
Right.
And yet here we are, over 100 years later, still talking about it.
The fact that the film survived all of that says something about its power.
Yeah.
It's almost as if the story itself refused to be silenced.
Yeah.
But now Robert Eggers,
Yeah.
the director behind films like The Witch,
Yep.
The Lighthouse, The Northman, is
Yeah.
taking on this legacy.
I know.
What do you think his vision for Nosferatu will be like?
Oh, I'm so curious about that. Eggers has this reputation for being incredibly meticulous with historical details.
Mm-hmm.
And his films are known for their psychological horror.
Yes.
They really get under your skin.
Yeah.
Rather than relying on jump scares.
Exactly.
Like really get in there and mess with you.
He's fascinated by folklore,
Yeah,
the occult, those darker aspects of human nature.
totally.
Knowing that, I think we can expect a Nosferatu that is both visually stunning
Yes.
and deeply unsettling.
So let's get into the plot of the 2024 version.
Okay.
What's the basic story here?
All right.
And how closely does it follow the Dracula we all know?
Sure.
I'm guessing there are some twists and turns.
Well, the core elements are familiar.
Okay.
You've got your Transylvanian count,
Right.
a very grotesque Count Orlok, who sets his sights on a young woman named Ellen.
Okay.
Ellen's husband, Thomas, gets caught in Orlok's web
Right.
without realizing the danger.
Okay, that sounds pretty standard so far.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm noticing something kind of interesting in the Wikipedia entry for the 2024 film.
Okay.
The setting is actually Germany in 1838.
Right.
That's a big change from the usual Gothic castles and foggy London streets we associate with Dracula.
You're right, and that's a brilliant move by Eggers.
Yeah.
By shifting the setting, he immediately distances himself from the familiar Dracula tropes.
Right.
He's creating a new atmosphere,
Okay.
something rooted in 19th century European folklore,
Mm-hmm.
a time and place where superstition and fear of the unknown were very real.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
This setting shift really makes you wonder about Eggers' interpretation of the vampire myth itself.
Sure.
Is he grounding it in a specific historical context?
Yeah.
Or is he using it as a metaphor for something more universal, something that speaks to our fears even today?
It's a question worth pondering, for sure.
Yeah.
But to get back to the plot.
Yeah.
There are some other key differences between this adaptation and the original Dracula story.
Okay.
For example, while Orlok's desire for Ellen mirrors Dracula's obsession with Mina,
Yeah.
his methods are far more predatory.
Oh, okay.
He doesn't want to turn her into a vampire.
Right.
He wants to feed on her, to drain her life force completely.
That's a much darker take.
Yeah.
And it ties into the themes of disease and contagion that were so potent in the 1922 film, especially considering its release after the Spanish flu pandemic.
Right.
Orlok becomes this embodiment of unseen forces that threaten to unravel society.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But what struck me as particularly interesting in Eggers' adaptation is Ellen's role.
Oh, okay.
She's not simply a helpless victim. She chooses to sacrifice herself to Orlok.
Wow.
To ensure his destruction.
Wow.
Even if it means her own death.
Wow, that's a bleak ending,
Yeah.
even for a vampire story.
Mm.
And it brings up this idea of seduction by darkness that we see in a lot of vampire stories.
Right.
Ellen is drawn to Orlok despite his monstrous nature.
Yeah.
Almost repulsed by him.
Yeah.
But ultimately sees her sacrifice as the only way to save others.
Right.
So is she a victim, a
Yeah.
hero, or something more complex?
That ambiguity is one of the things that makes Eggers' Nosferatu so compelling.
I see.
And it's further complicated by the casting choices.
Okay.
Bill Skarsgård,
Yeah.
who played Pennywise the Dancing Clown in the recent movies,
Yeah.
takes on the role of Orlok.
Wow. Talk about unsettling.
And Lily Rose Depp, known for her ethereal beauty and mysterious presence,
Right.
plays Ellen.
Wow.
Just imagine the dynamic between those two.
And speaking of casting,
Yeah.
I noticed that Willem Dafoe is in this film too.
Yes, he is.
This time he's playing Professor von Franz, who figures out the connection between Ellen and Orlok.
And here's a fascinating tidbit for film buffs.
Okay, what's that?
Dafoe actually played Max Schreck himself in the 2000 film Shadow of the Vampire.
Oh, wow.
Which was a fictionalized account of the making of the original Nosferatu.
Oh, I love it.
So he's come full circle.
Yeah.
From playing the actor who played the vampire to playing a character who hunts the vampire.
That's going in my mental file of fun film facts. Talk about meta!
Okay, so let's move on to the reception of the 2024 Nosferatu.
Okay.
From what I've seen, the reviews are all over the place.
It seems audiences are either captivated by Eggers' vision or put off by the slow pacing and the unsettling imagery.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned earlier, the mustache seems to be a particularly hot topic.
Some critics are hailing it as a masterpiece of horror.
They praise the cinematography, the acting, and the film's ability to create a genuinely unsettling atmosphere.
Right.
Others find it too slow, too theatrical, and lacking emotional depth.
Sure.
And then there's Orlok's appearance.
Yes.
Some find it terrifying and others find it unintentionally comical.
Especially the mustache.
Especially the mustache. It seems like this film is designed to provoke strong reactions.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
It seems like Eggers isn't trying to create a crowd-pleasing blockbuster.
Right.
He's challenging viewers to confront their own ideas.
Okay.
About what makes a monster truly frightening. What makes a story genuinely compelling.
So to our listener, as you gear up to watch this new Nosferatu, or maybe even revisit the original, what do you think about all of this?
Yeah, why?
Why does this story, whether it's the 1922 version or the 2024 reimagining, continue to resonate over a century later? What is it about vampires?
Why do they fascinate us?
So that keeps us coming back.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's one we'll dive into deeper in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay.
Stay with us.
All right. So we were just talking about the enduring appeal of the Nosferatu story.
Yeah.
And why it continues to resonate with audiences over a century later.
Right.
I have a feeling it has something to do with our fascination with vampires in general.
I think you're onto something there.
Yeah.
Vampires tap into these deep-seated fears that have been with humanity for centuries.
Yeah.
You know, the fear of the other,
Yeah.
the unknown, the things that lurk just beyond our understanding.
And those fears take on different forms depending on the time period.
Of course, yeah.
In 1922, when the original Nosferatu was released, it was the aftermath of World War I.
Right.
The world had been shattered by violence and disease.
That's right. The Spanish flu pandemic was still fresh in everyone's minds.
Yeah.
In that context, vampires, with their blood drinking and association with plague, become these incredibly potent symbols of the fragility of life, of the chaos that could consume us at any moment.
So in a way, they reflect the anxieties of that particular moment in history.
Exactly.
But what about today? We have our own set of fears. Climate change, political instability, global pandemics.
Right.
Does the vampire myth still hold the same power in the 21st century?
Absolutely. Think about it. Yeah. The vampire is this figure of insatiable hunger.
Yeah.
Of relentless pursuit. It never stops. It never rests.
Yeah.
It's almost like a mirror.
Yeah.
Reflecting our own anxieties about the future, about the things that seem to be spiraling out of control.
It's like a dark reflection of our own times. But there's also something seductive about that darkness, isn't there?
Yes.
You know that fascination with the forbidden, the taboo. We see it in the original Nosferatu.
Right.
And it's definitely present in Eggers' adaptation.
Yeah.
Especially in Ellen's storyline.
You're right. And that ties into another layer of the vampire myth.
Okay.
The erotic intertwined with the horrific.
Yeah.
The idea that evil can be alluring. That we can be drawn to things that will ultimately destroy us.
I'm looking at some of the reviews of the 2024 film, and this idea of seduction comes up again and again.
Oh, wow.
One reviewer even called it a twisted love story.
Interesting.
Not romantic love, of course,
right? But
something darker, more primal.
Yeah.
It's like this yearning for connection that can lead us down dangerous paths.
It's a powerful image, isn't it?
Yeah.
The moth drawn to the flame, knowing it will be consumed.
Right.
But unable to resist. And that's a fear that transcends time, isn't it?
Totally.
That fear of losing ourselves to our desires, to the things we can't control.
That's what makes these stories so compelling. They're not just about vampires and monsters.
No.
They're about the darkness that exists within us all. The things we try to repress, but ultimately can't escape.
And perhaps that's why we keep coming back to these stories.
Yeah.
They offer us a glimpse into our own shadow selves.
Yeah.
The parts of ourselves we'd rather not acknowledge.
You know, it's like watching a scary movie with the lights off.
Yeah.
You know, it's not real, but it still gets under your skin.
Exactly.
Hey.
And that's what makes this deep dive into Nosferatu so valuable.
Right.
It's not just about understanding the plot or the characters.
Okay.
It's about using those elements as a lens.
Yeah.
To examine ourselves, our fears, our fascinations, our relationship with the unknown.
So to our listener, as you prepare to watch this new Nosferatu or maybe revisit the original, we encourage you to keep these ideas in mind.
Sure.
What does this adaptation say about our current anxieties, our fascinations?
Right.
What does it reveal about the enduring power of these myths?
And most importantly, what does Nosferatu awaken within you? Yeah, good question.
What fears, what desires, what hidden truths does it bring to the surface?
That's where the real power of this story lies.
Right.
And that's what makes this remake so fascinating. It's not just a rehash of an old classic.
Wow.
It's a conversation with the past.
Yeah.
A reflection of the present and a glimpse into the shadows that continue to haunt us.
It makes you wonder, is Eggers trying to recreate the original Nosferatu faithfully?
Yeah.
Or is he deliberately subverting it, making it his own?
That's a great question. Like, is he trying to, pay homage to the original?
Yeah.
Or is he using it as a springboard for something totally new?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, that's the beauty of art, isn't it?
Yeah.
There isn't one right answer.
Right.
Each viewer brings their own experiences and interpretations to the table.
Right.
I think Eggers is deliberately leaving space for those individual interpretations.
He gives us the pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah.
But it's up to us to decide how they fit together.
It's like he's inviting us to be part of the creative process.
Yes.
To really engage with the story and wrestle with its themes. I think that's what makes this whole deep dive so much fun.
Yeah.
We're not just passively listening to information. We're actively trying to make sense of it.
Right.
And connect it to our own lives.
Exactly. And in doing so, we might discover something unexpected.
Right.
Something that sheds light not only on the story of Nosferatu, but on our own inner worlds as well.
So, to our listener, as you get ready to watch the new Nosferatu, or maybe even dust off that 1922 version,
yes,
we have a little assignment for you.
Okay.
Pay attention to how Eggers interprets this classic story.
Right.
Did he capture the essence of the original?
Yeah.
Or did he forge a completely new path?
Mm-hmm.
How did the film make you feel?
Yeah.
Terrified, intrigued,
Mm-hmm.
maybe even a little bit amused by that mustache.
And don't shy away from the ambiguity.
Yeah.
The parts that don't quite make sense or feel contradictory.
Right.
Sometimes those are the most thought-provoking elements of the story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely.
So as you're processing all of this, here's one final thought to chew on.
Okay.
At its core, the story of Nosferatu, in all its various forms, is about our relationship with fear.
With fear, yes.
What are we most afraid of? What do we try to hide from?
Yeah.
What might we even unknowingly invite into our lives?
And sometimes the only way to truly understand ourselves is to face those fears.
Yeah. To
confront the shadows that lurk within us all.
Well said. It looks like we've reached the end of our deep dive into the world of Nosferatu.
It does.
We hope you've enjoyed exploring this haunting tale with us.
Yes, very much.
And we encourage you to continue diving deep into the stories and ideas that spark your curiosity. Until next time, happy viewing.